Board games have become pretty popular over here in our house during the quarantine, but not all of them are as accessible as they could be. In episode 68 of the I Can't See You podcast, I'll talk about some workarounds that will help you enjoy them more if you can't see.
From Studio C, welcome to the I Can't See You podcast with David. He can't see, but he's got a lot to say and a face for radio.
Hello there, and welcome to the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode. And in today's episode, I want to talk about one of the things that we're doing over at our house to stay busy, and that's playing board games after Jane gets done work and Liz gets done work and I get done doing whatever I'm doing. And sometimes Jacob joins us, sometimes he doesn't, but we like to play board games just to break up the TV viewing, I guess, and the YouTube watching and whatever else we may be doing around here when we're not doing work. And Liz and Jane have been working quite a bit. Jane has been working a regular schedule. Jacob has been working at Target, as I've mentioned previously, and we're thankful for that, though, of course, we're also a little bit cautious because we don't know what he could bring home with him germ-wise. And so our fingers are crossed there for the 25 or 30 hours that he's working at Target. And again, we're thankful that he has the job and he's able to go in every day. But before I get to that, I do want to mention something exciting. And just today, and I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 1st of April, and it's hard to believe that the first quarter is over already of 2020. And, everybody was saying it's April Fool's Day. To me, it felt more like Groundhog Day because it's basically the same thing we did yesterday and the day before. I left the apartment 4 times today, once to go down to get the mail at the mailroom, and 3 other times I walked down with Liz while she was doing the laundry in the laundry room here in our apartment building. We don't have washer dryers in our apartments. There is one on each floor, one laundry room on each floor. So that's what we have to do. And of course, you've got to go and you've got to, either bring a Clorox wipe with you to wipe off the things that you're going to touch before you touch them with your hands, or as Liz did, she brings either a plastic bag or a glove to touch all the common area things. And of course, then washes her hands when she comes back. And that's been a challenge, but that's all I did today. Now, like I said, Jacob has been going to work, and he actually worked today. Before I get into the board games, though, and how they are not very accessible to folks who have little or no vision, like me, I do want to mention something exciting. We are on now both Alexa and Google, so you can say, "Hey Alexa, open the I Can't See You," and that's all you have to say. Alexa, open I Can't See You. And now first you're going to have to set it up. So, and that's where the funny story comes in with this. I was trying to set it up earlier today. And when I did, and we've been working with Chip Edwards over at Create My Voice, so that this is doable with, the Alexa and Google devices. And it's very cool. And I've been trying to do this for a while. And I'm glad that I connected with Chip down at Podfest. Max Ivy, the blind blogger, introduced me to Chip, and we started talking there, and I took one of the sessions that Chip presented at, and we continued after I came home, and Chip went back to his house, and so we're on there now. But today, to set it up on my personal Alexa, and again, I'm sure I'm not going to listen to it on there other than to hear how it sounds. And I have tweaked some of the controls. So if you notice a difference, I did mess with the controls a little bit. Again, I can't really see them, and they're not tactile because I record right on the computer. So hopefully it sounds better than it did before, or not worse than it did before. That's for now, that's what I'm shooting for. Once everything gets lifted, I'm going to look into a small mixing board that I actually can turn the dials and hear the difference as I turn the dials, as opposed to a virtual dial like I have on the computer screen here. But today, when I went to the Alexa device to listen to it and to enable the app, which you have to do, at some point it might be that you can just say, "Alexa, open I Can't See You," and it'll work. But for now, you have to enable, it's not an app, it's a skill on the Alexa device. So you say, "Alexa, enable I Can't See You." And she then said, and I hesitate using the she, but it sounds like a girl to me, so that's why I call her she. Alexa, enable I Can't See You. What skill would you like me to enable? And then I say, I can't see you. Her response was, I'm right here. So I couldn't, after a couple of times of trying to do that, I then had to go into the Alexa app on my phone or on the computer. I guess I did it on the computer, actually. And I enabled it that way, which kind of ruined the fun. And I should have done a video because it was kind of funny. It was almost like a who's on first type of thing. I kept asking it, and it kept saying, I'm right here. So if you do want to listen on your Amazon Echo devices or Fire tablets and whatnot, again, you can try Alexa enable I Can't See You, or just say, Alexa, open I Can't See You, and then you could navigate through the different episodes that way. With Google, it's a little bit more straightforward. You just say, the words, and I'm not going to say the actual words because I have right on my desk, I have a Google device. You use the words to get Google ready and listening, and you say, talk to I Can't See You, and it will come on, and it'll ask you which episode you want to play, and so forth and so on. So that is very cool. So give that a try. And I'd really be interested to hear how you make out when you try to do your Amazon devices with Alexa, because that was pretty hysterical when I kept trying to do it, and I was trying all day to get it to work, and it just takes a little bit of time. Just like when you make changes sometimes to name servers and things like that, sometimes it takes a little bit. So I was checking sporadically throughout the day, and finally when it worked, it made me chuckle, and like I said, I came in and just fixed it. And you can either if you can't get it on the device and you get into that whole circle thing of I'm right here and I can't see you and so forth, just go to your phone and go on the app and do it, enable the skill, or go to the website. If you have trouble, let me know. I can certainly send you a link. And in fact, I will put the link in the show notes page. That would be over at ican'tseeyou.com/068. And again, that's episode 068, which is this episode you're listening to. And I hope you're doing well. I know we're starting to get a little, I don't know what the word is, not bored, but, it's a little monotonous, I guess. As I said earlier, Jane is working, 8 or 9 hours a day doing her PR stuff. And again, thankful that she is doing that and enabled to do that, from our dining room table. And, having Zoom calls with her other team members. It's just a very cool thing. And same thing with Liz. Liz is able to teach, and she several times a week is making calls with her students. And this week they actually were reading Flat Stanley, and she was recording a chapter a day. And I was surprised at how much you have to do to get permission to read a book on video. And you just can't simply do it. The publisher could come back to you and say, you know what, you can't do that. And I don't know if they could fine you. I don't know what the repercussions are. But the school then, went to the different publishers. And again, this week is Flat Stanley, which Liz is reading one chapter per day. And then they have an event where Liz today was, cut out Flat Stanley. And, I guess tomorrow when she reads the book, she's going to show it. And she's posted the sheet where the students can download the sheet and then color their own after they listen to tomorrow's chapter. And I think they're on chapter 4 tomorrow. Which for a kid's book was kind of long. It was 21 pages, which I was surprised. So to break up the monotony of watching TV, and again, not everything is always on that we want to watch, or at least that we can all agree on. And since we've downsized a few years ago from our big house where we had, I think we had TVs in 6 different rooms. We had a family room which had a TV. We had what we called what the builder called the great room, that had a TV. In fact, that was a big screen TV at the time. Our bedroom had a TV. The kitchen had a TV. Our guest bedroom had a TV. The kids did not have TVs in their bedrooms at our house, though. So, every one of us could have watched whatever we wanted at any one time. Oh, and the home office had a TV. Where we are now, there's 3 bedrooms, which is great, which, one for each. Liz and I have one, obviously, and then each kid gets their own, and that's great. But we only have 2 TVs set to cable, living room and the master bedroom. So I have a TV in the office that I'm talking to you from, but no cable box. So this is where I come when I watch, Netflix or Amazon and things like that. But when I want to watch something on the DVR, I have to go into the living room or the bedroom. So sometimes there's not something on that we all want to watch. Sometimes it's something that Jane and I want to watch and Liz doesn't watch, or that Liz and I want to watch and Jane doesn't watch. Jacob doesn't watch too much TV. He will sometimes pop into the living room when we're watching something. So to break up the monotony of that and just wanting to do something a little more exciting, we've turned to board games, which it seems like the only time we do that is when there's no power. A couple of years ago, when we still lived at the house, we were without power for about 30 hours. And one of the things that we did during those 30 hours, we played a bunch of different games. And the games of choice that we like: Clue, Monopoly, Life, although I am not a huge fan of Life. It's a game that Jane really likes. Liz, I think, thinks it's okay. I don't know about Jacob. I don't know how he feels about it. My favorite is Clue and Monopoly, and I always want to play Risk. That's not something that the others want to get involved in. So it's been a while since we played Risk, so I don't remember, and I haven't tried some workarounds to use the, so I could see it and not have to ask another player what my cards are or what else is going on in the game. With Monopoly, it's not too big of a deal. I can't see the cards, but when I buy a property, when I landed on a property, Liz or Jane will say, "Okay, that's Park Place," and if I knew that it was available, I'd say, "Okay, I'll buy it." And basically, just like anything, as you go around the board for the second time, because you can't buy a property on the first go round. When you go around the board, when you land on something, you buy it unless somebody already has. And it was a lot of fun. We played Monopoly the other day. And that was easier for me because it's not something that you have to keep a secret. Everybody can see your money laying in front of you, and everybody can see your properties because they're the cards that are there. And when somebody landed on my property, I knew which properties I owned, and I'd say, "Hey, I own that." And then Liz would look at the cards because they were closer to her than to Jane, and she would say, "Okay, yo, Dad, X number of dollars," or I owe you X number of dollars. And I did have 3 out of the 4 railroads, in case you were wondering. There was only one Monopoly, and that was Liz, and she had those 2 cheap properties. So what is it, Baltic and Mediterranean? So she built a house on each one, but didn't go past that. Jane ended up winning, but only because one of the things we do that is not part of the rules is the free parking and the money. You throw the money in the middle. Starts off with $500, and then any kind of fine or penalty goes in that. I said to Liz and Jane, "What if we put all the money when you buy a property into that?" And that would really be something at that point. That would be a lot. But Jane landed on free parking. I think she landed on 3 times. So Monopoly wasn't an issue. Monopoly was okay for me to play. But again, I wasn't as... I didn't have to move my piece. Somebody could move my piece and everybody could see it. It didn't matter. It's not like when you play Uno or you play Clue, where you want to keep your cards not seen by the others, because if they see it, then they know, oh, okay, he has, Professor Plum. I know Professor Plum is not the one who did it. So we had tried to play, I don't know, about a week ago, and it was very frustrating for me because I couldn't see the cards, and Liz had asked me, I was trying to use the heavy-duty reading glasses that I have, and she'd asked me, I forget what she asked for. I don't remember if I had, I thought I had the conservatory, but it was the candlestick, and she had asked for the one that I had, and I thought it was the other one. And I thought, you know what, instead of trying to use my heavy-duty reading glasses, which are something like 12X, and I have to look really closely, and I have to tell you, I usually win at Clue. Even trying to keep it in my head, I would usually win at that. And I don't remember who won that day when it was just very frustrating and it wasn't fun. It just wasn't fun. And I kept thinking about it, and I thought there's got to be a way that I can play Clue and still win and enjoy winning. and there was. And what I came up with, and I'll tell you how I did it, and then I'll go into how easy it would be for the manufacturer, and I don't remember who the manufacturer of Clue is, how easy it would be for them to make it more accessible so that someone who is blind or visually impaired like myself can play with sighted folks and have fun. And the way I did it, and there's a way that I thought it could be better done, but our printer was out of toner, was this. I thought that we could print up a label. I was specifically thinking you print up a barcode label and put it on the backside so you could leave all the cards down on the table, and then just scan it with your phone so you could see which was which. And when you hit it with either the barcode or the QR code, your phone would tell you, hey, this is the card you have there. And then, when somebody asks you, Professor Plum with the lead pipe in the conservatory, you could scan, you have one of those or two of those or whatever it is, or maybe all three. You scan the codes on the back, you pick up one of the cards, and then you just show the person that card. The way I did it was I just had my phone point to, when I first got the cards, I scanned them all, not scanned them, but used Seeing AI, which is an app that is a free download. And if you should check it out. If you're, even if you're sighted, it's kind of fun to see. And, you kind of see what I can use to get through things. Like when I was going around the Penn Museum, it's what I used. There's another one called Envision, Envision, which they're coming out with the app paired with a new version of Google Glass, which will make it so that it's something you could wear, and it just sounds very cool. And I'm sure in an upcoming episode, once everything is settled down, hopefully with the coronavirus, that we can go to, whether it's the NFB convention this summer in Houston or some other thing that's where they're going to be, presenting, where, you could try them out. Because I just can't wait to try those out. I was actually on another podcast yesterday, and once that's published, I'll put it up on the website and tweet about it and whatnot, so you can listen. I was on with Max Ivy, who is the blind blogger, and we talked about it, and it just, to me, sounds so cool. And as things go, it wasn't super expensive. I told you about the eSight that I tried out over last summer after coming back from Las Vegas and the NFB convention that was there. They were $6,000 on sale. And they just were so bulky and so uncomfortable. And, I tried to use them at the movies. They didn't really work well. They worked okay around the house, but, they were big and bulky, and I just hated wearing them for a long period of time. And, I really wanted to try them at a sporting event. But, once you have a pair of these, the Envision, the theory is that, you wear these glasses all the time. And when you're sitting there and you're playing Clue or Monopoly or Risk or whatever, you hold the card in front and it would read it to you, hopefully into an earpiece, because again, with Clue, you don't want to let the others know what cards you have. But as far as the manufacturers go, it would be so easy to just print a code on the back of the card, or print the name of whatever the card is in a regular font. That was the one issue that I had when trying to read with Seeing AI, to read, the first font of all the characters' names and rooms and weapons were all in like a cursive, a funky cursive, so it didn't read it. So Mr. Green was R Green or something like that, and Mrs. White was RS White. So you had to, or the lead pipe was the Ed pipe, or Eid pipe, I guess it was, the way my phone pronounced it. So it worked. And It would be better though if the manufacturer just easily, and you don't even have to. I mean, I would imagine you could do it in the, when they're printing them up. Why couldn't they do it? And you could slap a label on the box saying, accessible for the blind and visually impaired, or better yet, do that and then come out with an app that you could use. Because again, the second component of Clue is everybody writes down, okay, I guess this person, and I guess this weapon, and I guess this. So the first thing you do is you fill in your own. So the way I did that was I used notes. I created a checklist. I read all the characters, and then I read all the weapons, and then I read all the rooms. And Jane, basically Jane read them to me, and then I just repeated it into my phone, and I created a list. And when I first got my cards, I went through and I checked off the check boxes. And this kind of stressed Jacob out. Jacob was going to play with us, but I got a little frustrated because my phone was acting a little weird. And finally, he had enough, and he went back to his room and went and did whatever. But I did that, and so as we were guessing, and I knew almost, I guess it was after the first or second round, I knew what the weapon was. I knew it was the knife, and the way I like to play, because the rooms are so far off from one another, unless I go into a room that I already know is the thing, I like to, you can, I don't know what they call it. I don't want to say teleport, but when you're in I guess it's the study, it can go to the kitchen or something and back and forth without having to roll the dice. So basically I do that because it's just a lot faster that way. And that's, it's just easier. And, hopefully you can figure out which the room is. And that was that. And, that was the issue. That was the last thing I found. I knew, like I said, very early that it was the knife. I knew pretty early that it was, the character that it was, and I don't remember who it was. And then once I found out that it was, I think it was the ballroom. Once I found out it was that, I made the guess, and of course I won. And so each time somebody took a guess, and if it went around and nobody showed a card, I knew that, okay, there's nothing to check off. Or if I had the card, I knew, it was easy for that. And again, it would be so easy, so much easier if the manufacturer were to, again, either come up with an app or, maybe put some instructions down. Hey, here's how you can, if you can't see the cards, here's how you can play. And Seeing AI is available, I believe, for Android as well. So it would be easy enough to do where you have, you just use Seeing AI. And again, try, download Seeing AI and give it a shot, and, just have it read things to you. The one thing that's fun on Seeing AI is, there's a, I forget what it's called. It's basically, it'll tell you what the person looks like that you're standing near. You take a picture and it'll say a 68-year-old woman wearing a blue shirt with, this color hair or glasses or whatever. And I was showing it off one day at one of the condo board meetings here. And I was sitting next to Mary, who, and I don't remember how old she is, but, she's up there pretty good. And it took around 5 or 10 years off her life. And when I told her what it said, because it reads it really fast, so, she couldn't understand it. She said, "What did it say?" I said, "However old lady, with a blue shirt and da-da-da-da-da." She's like, "Oh, it said it's off by 6 years." And she was so happy, and and it was just funny. But it does all that. There's a currency reader in there. But give it a go with stuff like that. And again, one day maybe we can talk Jane into playing Risk, and I'll try it with Risk. If I had toner, I'd print the labels out and try the barcode and QR code thing to see if that worked. But I didn't. And so, I just had to scan the cards, and same thing when somebody showed me a card, as I made guesses, I had, and I had the earpiece in so no one else could hear it. I had one earbud in, and, so when I scanned, when I had it look at a card and it would tell me whatever was on the card, minus the first letter, that I could then go to the checklist and mark it off. And it would also be cool if if the manufacturer came up with it and there was an app, and maybe that's something, maybe I could just be the app person and develop the app, the companion app, and just get permission from the different game manufacturers, that's something that, well, I just thought of, and maybe you'll beat me to it, and that's great if you do. But it just was 100 times better than playing that night, which was just a couple of nights ago, than playing, the week before, where I was really frustrated. And don't get me wrong, I was frustrated early on when we played a couple of nights ago because my phone was acting weird. And that's one of the things that, I always think, oh, I must be the only one my phone is acting like this. And then, when I'm with some of my other blind friends and they say, oh, I tried to do this on my phone, but this was happening. Or I hear on another podcast, like Blind Abilities or whatever, one of the other ones I listen to, they'll say, oh yeah, here's an issue I found with the iPhone, since the upgrade. And I'm like, oh, I thought that was something I was doing. The one thing that I've noticed that I think messes around with the phone itself is VoiceOver, which is the only way I can use my phone, because it tells me what I'm touching on the screen. It helps me shoot, when I shoot those blind selfies, it tells me, one face in the middle or one face on the left or whatever, tilt it, tilting right. So, I had to bring the right corner up so it's a straight shot. So it would be so easy if the manufacturer would just do that, where you can just scan the card. And again, if there were an app, it'd be very cool that you could just scan the card and then it would immediately put it into your checked off list. So you don't even have to then leave Seeing AI and go into the note that you've created that, has your your note that has the list of the different things. And then you have to check it off on your own. It'd be very cool if you just, scanned your cards. And for example, at the beginning of the game, you scan all your cards and then you go in and you see, okay, these are who I have. And then which you can go through. But it made it work and it made it fun. And, and that's how, after talking with Max yesterday, that's a lot of how things happen for folks who are blind and visually impaired. We can do the same things, but we have to do it in a different way. And it's usually not as convenient or easy, but at least we can do it. Talking with my mobility instructor years ago when she was, teaching me the white cane, we were talking about how she was at a conference where there was a sign-up table in the auditorium that they were doing the thing at, and there was, you had to fill out your name on a clipboard and your phone number or whatever, or email address or whatever. So it was very easy. A sighted person could see, okay, I have to go down there to that table and I'm going to fill out my name and phone number or whatever it is, or and then there's a water cooler right down the table so you can get a glass of water. For somebody who's sighted, bing, bang, boom, you're done. A couple of minutes, you walk down there, you fill out, you write the stuff down and grab a glass of water and you go find a seat. For somebody that was blind or visually impaired, first of all, they might not have even known there was a table. And that's happened to me where they'll say, you should have signed in. And how would I know if I go there on my own, how would I know? But it would take, somebody that, maybe a half an hour to do that, first to find the table and then to figure out how they're going to sign in if there's not somebody there and saying, hey, could you put my information down for me? And at PodFest, it was easy. You just had to walk up to a desk and you gave your name. They pulled your card. They handed you a bag and a badge. Actually, they handed you a map and your badge. And then you had to go to a different table and pick up a bag. So, they thought what a great exercise this would be for folks who train blind folks or visually impaired folks on mobility to do a conference like that and blindfold them and have them sign in and do all that and see how long it takes. And on the majority, she told me it took them between a half an hour and 45 minutes, that exercise. So yes, we can do all those things, but sometimes we have to have a little patience and sometimes it gets a little frustrating because it's not set up for a blind or visually impaired person, just like Clue is not set up, or Uno. And Uno is a little bit different. First of all, I can mention, and I know I've mentioned it before, Uno is available with Braille now. As I've also mentioned before, I don't read Braille. In fact, lately, the way my hands have been, I can barely hold things. In fact, when we were playing Monopoly, I kept dropping the dice because I just couldn't squeeze them enough to hold on to them. So Uno is available in Braille. I was looking at them, and the numbers are big enough on there I don't remember if I used the reading glasses or not, that I could see the numbers and kind of get an idea. I did have trouble with zero in that one card that has like a dash through it, like the zeros used to be on the computers back in the day. But my biggest issue was telling the difference between blue and green because they were very similar. And I did have difficulty, and I had to say, I kept asking Liz, is this blue or green? And she would tell me, but again, that's something that you don't want to, it's one of those games where when you have one of those cards that change direction or that make you pick 4 or that change the color, you want to save those to the end, and you don't want somebody that, you're competing against to know that you have that. So again, it would be something like I was trying to think of how Uno could be different, and the fact that they make the Braille cards, I guess in itself I should be happy with and just leave it at that and, just work through my issues, my issues with that. And maybe Uno, because it's only numbers and very small numbers, maybe that is something that I could pick up. But again, I really have a tough time, with touch in my fingers. Especially the last few days and maybe even week or two, it's just been, not just my hands and wrist, but, my knee and my feet. And I could go on forever about that. So let's leave it at that. So Uno was fun, other than I couldn't tell when I had blue or green. And, if somebody said it's a yellow 8 and I knew I had a blue 8 or an 8 that was either blue or green, I just put the 8 down and let it be. It didn't matter. But it got to a point where if, somebody had a red 7 down and I had a 7 that was in blue or green, and then somebody said, well, that's a blue 7. Oh, I didn't know it was blue. Okay. I didn't have a 7, but, and I needed, green. I couldn't tell. And, so that was a little bit frustrating, but again, it's fun. And Uno is fun because it's over in a relatively short amount of time. I don't know how long we played Monopoly, and Liz wanted to tag out of Monopoly because she was getting tired, and Jacob had come home from work and he was going to sit in, but I didn't want to, I didn't want to sit there. We were already playing for, a couple of hours, and I was tired of playing, and, and I, we just wanted to call. I just wanted to call it a night. So we did a couple more laps, and unfortunately Jacob didn't get to play. And so the last couple of nights we haven't played a game, but, he's got a game that, we're going to try at some point, and I don't remember what it's called. Hopefully I'll be able to do it. But I thought it would be a fun exercise to try and to see what I could do. And I thought that I was going to be talking about it after I tried Clue, a week or so ago, and it was very frustrating. And I thought, the more I thought about it, I don't want to just talk about it and bitch, hey, I couldn't see it. It was so miserable. And I was pretty miserable. I'm not going to I am not going to lie. I was. And, and it's, it certainly makes everybody a little frustrated, I'm sure. But it is frustrating because we wanted to do something, and that was fun. And, especially Clue, because I love Clue, and I love winning at Clue, and and that's, like I said, that's usually how it goes. So I was glad I thought about it for a little bit and thought, let me try this and this. And, Trivial Pursuit is another thing that, I'd like to play, but, that's very small, and I don't know how easy that would be to read the correct line. Most of the apps will read from top to bottom. So to get a card that's small like that and get it to read a specific line, I think would be difficult. So, we'll have to work on that. But, I'd love to play other games. And like I said, maybe one day I can talk Jane into playing Risk. So I'd really like to know what you do as you're sitting at home and you get tired of watching TV and things like that. I know that I have got the War of the Worlds book on my iPhone from Bard, the Bard app, and Bard is a blind and for blind folks, it's an audio book, audio version of it. And we've been watching the TV show. I don't know if you've watched War of the Worlds. I think it's on Epix. It's a French production, so half of the show is in French. And I think I mentioned it a while back. I watched the first episode and I kind of liked it, but the problem was it wasn't described, and what parts weren't described and what parts weren't in English, which was about half, were in French, and I couldn't read the subtitles. So I've tried using my phone to read subtitles, but that show because the majority of it, or at least half of it, was in French, there was a lot, and it was hard for my phone to keep up without me having to pause and then unpause, and each episode just took a little while. But since Jane came home because of the coronavirus, she got into it with me, and we watched, and I think there's one more episode. But if you, it is a really good show. It's a good take on it, and that's why I wanted to read the book again to see the differences, because there are some differences. And the other cool thing is, every time I've seen a War of the Worlds movie or show, it has been in the U.S. So this takes place mainly in the UK and in France, which, big fan of both places. So it's very cool to see that. And again, the different take is a little bit different. So check it out. It's probably available on demand if you have Epix. And it was really good. Like I said, I really liked it. But that's one of the things we've used to pass some time, some downtime, because we're not going out to eat and we're not going anywhere other than to maybe pick Jacob up. And once in a while, if Liz goes to the market in the afternoon, I'll go, but she usually likes to go first thing. So if you are doing games, what games do you like? Give it, shoot me an email, ican'tseeyou.podcast@gmail.com, ican'tseeyou.podcast@gmail.com, or better yet, give a call into the line at 646-926-6350. Leave your name and your comment of what you're playing. And I'd really also be interested if you tried enabling the I can't see you skill on Alexa, how you made out. Maybe by the time you're hearing this, maybe it's already automatically done when you say, Alexa, open I can't see you. Maybe that'll work and you don't need to enable the skill, because that was pretty hysterical when I was trying to do that earlier today. And so let me know. Again, 646-926-6350. If you do call in, please leave your name and your town. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll put it on an upcoming show. And any other questions or comments you have, what else are you doing to keep busy? What shows do you like? If you are blind or visually impaired, I'd really be interested in knowing what shows you're watching, because I'm always looking around for something, especially if it's got descriptive audio, so I can watch it on my own and I don't have to wait for somebody to watch it with me. Be interested to hear from you. Likewise, I will also put a link in the show notes page on what you do to get your Google or Alexa device to play the I Can't See You podcast on those smart speakers. And I'll put a link on the show notes page to actually go and buy those things, at least the Alexa devices over at Amazon. And remember, whenever you see a link to anything at Amazon, that is an affiliate link, and we make a little commission when you make a qualifying purchase. And I do appreciate that, although I have to mention that Liz has not been to Starbucks for probably 3 weeks, maybe even longer. And I think it's starting to show. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Hopefully it's not too much longer before she's back getting her chai tea latte, 6 pumps, non-foam, no water, or no foam, no water, non-fat, sorry. So if you see her and you want to get her, that is it. A chai tea latte, 6 pumps, no foam, no water, and non-fat milk. But I do appreciate you listening to this episode of the I Can't See You podcast. I hope you're staying safe, and I hope you're well. And remember, keep washing those hands and keeping your distance. As somebody I heard on the radio say, it's not really a social distance if you don't know the person and are interacting. It's a physical distance. Just stay at least 6 feet away from everybody else, and you'll be good to go. And again, stay safe, be well, and thanks again for listening to the I Can't See You podcast.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast. Follow David on Twitter. He is at David Benj.